Hi, I'm Liv,
And I'm Britt.
and this is the Reclaimed Motherhood podcast.
This podcast is about coming back home to ourselves as women and as mothers.
We're here for the honest conversations, the ones about intuition, fertility, birth, parenting, relationships, holistic health, and the many seasons of womanhood that shape us.
We'll be sharing our own lived experiences, the things that we've questioned, unlearned, and reclaimed, so you feel encouraged to trust your body, your instincts, and your own inner knowing.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Reclaimed Motherhood podcast. Britt and I are so excited to be back after a bit of I don't know, a pause, a break for a little bit. If you followed along on our stories, we chatted about it briefly, but we are back and we are excited to be talking about pregnancy and birth today. This was something that we wanted to share a bit about. We were thinking about doing it later, but Britt and I were just reconnecting last week and we thought, why not chat about it now?
Well, we both love pregnancy and birth so much. Both of us are or have been doulas. So
Yes.
that has been a part of our world, even outside of our personal experience, which is pretty cool.
Mhm.
I like that we have that in common. And yeah, and we've just both really enjoyed our
Yeah.
pregnancy experience. So, and you just very recently had a pregnancy experience.
Yes. Very recently pregnant and giving birth. Um,
hmm
I think, I mean, Britt and I had chatted. I don't know if we said it on the podcast or if it was just when you and I were talking, but we were just talking about wanting people to feel encouraged and not really like afraid of birth, especially young women who may not be married yet, may not be pregnant yet, may not even have considered having kids yet because of our society and all the stuff that people say about having kids. And so we just wanted to really take some time and share a little bits and pieces of our own pregnancy journeys and birth and just kind of go back and forth and share that with you guys to hopefully leave you feeling encouraged about it rather than afraid of having kids.
Yeah, because I think there are so many young people that are afraid of having kids, and not even just young women, but even women as old as I am. I know
Yeah.
that they've been like, I'm just not going to have kids. And I think that it's because of this narrative and story around the fears of dealing with the pregnancy, right? Dealing with it, and the fears of giving birth, and as well as like mothering, and they see it as such a sacrifice, you know?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
there is sacrifice to mothering. I'm not saying that there isn't, but with all of those things, there's so much joy that
Yeah.
that is so much bigger than any of the discomforts and the struggles and the sacrifice, right? So,
There's so much more that comes out of it though.
mhm,
There's like this narrative that, well, I mean, I guess this is actually kind of a harmful narrative because it's confusing for women who haven't had children yet. Like, you're going to be able to bounce back and you're going to find yourself again and you're going to be able to be the old you. And that's literally not reality. So I think it's important to acknowledge that when you become pregnant and you become a mother and you give birth, like you are actually a whole new person. You're
mhm,
still you, whatever your name is. Like I'm still Olivia, you're still Britt, but you are a whole new version of yourself that you never
mhm,
met before. And I think people they kind of want to like hang on to or like white knuckle who they were before, and that just it does not work. And it doesn't mean that you can't still be yourself. You're just a new version of yourself because you are a mother now. You have a child, you've given birth, or you have multiple children.
mhm.
And you become new versions of yourself your entire life, though. That's the thing.
And I think
But
that's what's so scary, because I think that what we're seeing in our society and our culture right now is such an identity crisis, an identity conflict within each human. And I think that there is such a like scramble, or they're trying to find out who they are, and they're trying to establish this is who I am. And I
like
think
in a
so,
box.
yeah, like put themselves in a box. And I think that there's a lot to that. And I feel like I'm getting off track a little bit, but as far as like they're finding themselves by assigning labels to themselves, like
Yes.
this is who I am, and then these are all my labels, instead of
Yes.
going with like life isn't supposed to be that way. Life isn't supposed to be like, oh, I found myself. Now I know who I am and I'm going to be walking confidently in who I am. It is change. It's constant change. It's constant, um, a constant renewal and a constant, yeah, just renewing. It's like you're constantly becoming a new person.
No, and it's true though. Like I think that I mean, like you said, we're kind of segueing to another thing, but I was just thinking about it when we were talking. But I think that people worry like, okay, I'm going to become a mom, and then like I'm not going to have the same friends, or they're not going to like me because I'm a mom, or we're not going to have the same things in common. And while in some cases that may be true, like
Yeah.
that's also okay. Like it's okay to make new friends and kind of I'm not saying like shed old relationships, but if it's not serving either person, then like that's also okay. Sometimes you grow out of relationships, which I think a lot of people have a really hard time.
Yeah, and that goes
Um,
back to an identity conflict. Like, there's
yeah,
this fear of abandonment, and so if
right.
you're living in this fear of abandonment or rejection, then you're not walking confidently in who you are, and, I mean, that's we're gonna go right back into, like, our faith and knowing who we are, um, but yeah, if you're not confident in that already and knowing, like, I am a daughter of I'm a daughter of King Jesus, then you're gonna be walking that path and you're not gonna be hanging on to like all these things out of like fear of this
Right.
abandonment and rejection.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of
Um,
father wounding. Gosh, we could just go down a whole
I
like
was gonna say
6
we could go
other
down
places.
we could go down a whole nother conversation. Um, okay, but let's get back to what we're talking about. I totally took us off track. Sorry.
I think it was me. It's okay.
It was both of us. It's okay.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so we wanted to just be encouraging about pregnancy and birth and motherhood and um, all the joys that do come with it. Because I remember years ago, um, who was I talking to? Somebody mentioned something about motherhood and how I was raising my daughter. They were like, it's such a sacrifice for you. And at the time, I was like, I don't really view that as a sacrifice because, like, I've always wanted to be a mom. I've always wanted to do these things. And so I do agree there are sacrifices that come along with it, but I also think that it really depends on how you look at it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, like you're when you become pregnant, your body's not just your own, right? So you're not just thinking about yourself and what you're consuming. You're thinking about, okay, what am I consuming? How is it going to impact my baby? How is moving or not moving going to impact my baby? What am I eating? What am I around? The relationships X, Y, and Z. Like there are sacrifices that we do make, but I feel like I don't know. I feel like the word sacrifice just can come off as a negative term, and so when you're
Yeah,
talking to
and I'm just
someone,
thinking about how sad it is that we're, like, viewing part of our the way God designed us, our natural design. Like, we were
right,
designed to start having a period and start having babies and then growing a big family, and at what point did we start naming our natural design and our, I believe, innate desire to mother and to
right,
become pregnant? When did all of that become a sacrifice, right? Like, or why did we go that direction? And it's like part of how what we're made to do. This is why we're here.
yeah, it's literally how we were made, and like
Mhm,
how our bodies were designed, like you said.
mhm.
So it's like, why are we viewing that as like a sacrificial thing? I don't know. It just, the word to me just sounds kind of like, it sounds negative when people say it. That's just how I perceive it. Maybe some people don't, but
Yeah, and like
um,
you're a victim to your own body and your own these changes that are happening to you, like you're just victim to them, you know?
yeah, well, it's also, it comes along with what we've talked about previously. Just like how much there's complaining on social media and, like you said, labeling and there's so much. I feel like there was such a large amount of social media accounts and posts and stories that just talk about how hard motherhood is. And there weren't as many positive ones. And now I kind of feel like I've been seeing a little bit more of the positive, which I think is a good thing.
Mhm.
I'm hoping that will also be encouraging to women who are not married, do not have kids yet, or are considering having kids, um, because we need that. You know, it's just I remember like earlier when you were saying when we both have both worked as doulas, I'm so glad that I took those trainings before having my daughter because it just taught me so much about pregnancy and labor and birth, and even early motherhood. Granted, I'd worked with families for since I was 13, so a bit like very young babies, newborns, and so I'd seen the ins and outs of it, but it's obviously completely different when it's your baby and your
Mhm.
pregnancy and your birth. It's so different. Um, and I think that part of enjoying your pregnancy, obviously, I said this to you before we recorded, but like everyone's pregnancies are different. Everyone's babies are different. Everyone's bodies are different. So what may feel fine to me may really bother another person.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, my mindset's always like, in general, let alone when I'm pregnant, but it's just like, okay, yeah, maybe that's annoying, but it's not going to completely ruin my day. I'm not going to let it ruin my day, my week. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
there are times where we do need additional help, whether that's like going to physical therapy or just having less stress or stretching or moving your body. Like, I mean, we've talked about the way that we treat our bodies and how that impacts everything.
Mhm.
Um, and you do have to shift some of those things when you are pregnant. And that's just reality for some people, not for everybody.
Mhm.
Um, but I just think that we need to have more conversations about like all the variations of it and how
Mhm.
it can be really
Those sounds are
wonderful.
the best. I'm so sorry. Those are the cutest sounds ever. Oh, he's so sweet.
No, I missed them so much before I had him.
Yeah. Those are the
Take
cutest
a breath.
sounds.
Take a breath.
Yeah, I think that when we're talking about pregnancy and everybody having a different experience of pregnancy, and all this obviously segues into birth as well, is how like our ancestors, we used to be as young girls around pregnancy and birth all the time. Like we lived closely with all of our family members, our extended family, and so it's something that we were witnessing a lot. And even like you're nursing right now, like um, I know there's a lot of women that I teach in my classes that they're like, I've never seen a baby breastfed before. Like that's completely foreign too. So we have now a culture that is not witnessing pregnant women. They're not witnessing, um, definitely not witnessing birth. They're not even witnessing breastfeeding. And it's like all these things need to be done like somewhere else. And honestly, we're not even witnessing children being in places where we gather. Like it's like this is children free, children free, children free. People are like avoiding children. Um, so I think that you know this is part of why I think education is really important now, is because that way you can get a heads up and learn a lot of these things and know what to expect and know what is. I think there's this constant like, what's normal? What's normal? Is this normal? And that's what sisters are for, right? Like that's what, and we're missing all those pieces. So having somebody to mentor you and hold your hand and be like, that seems totally normal to me, or even check you and be like, intuitively, what do you feel? Like you're the mother, right? And I think that there's so many things that are broken there where we're not trusting our intuition, right? Like that's
Oh my
so
goodness.
broken right now. But what I'm trying to share is that we're missing this piece of community, of sisterhood, of experienced wise women and mentors to
Mhm.
walk with us. And I think in that missing piece, we're also completely missing seeing the joy of pregnancy and the joy, because all we're seeing are clips, right? So we know, we
Yeah.
hear it all the time, like everything you're seeing on social media, it's not real life. They're just like little clips of like highlights, a highlight reel. But that's not always true. Like what you're seeing in
Totally.
the pregnancy and birth world, it's not highlight clips. People are like not always showing, they're like, this is I'm miserable. I can't wait to have this baby, or I can't wait to
Yeah.
be induced on whatever day and have this baby cut out of me. Like, um, totally missing out on all the joys.
But that's the thing though, is I feel like there's just such I feel like the best word to describe it is like this just massive disconnect
Yeah.
like a detachment almost.
Mhm. Yeah. Mhm.
And so I think it's because like I mean there's so many layers to that what you were talking
Mhm.
about,
Mhm.
but like our modern world, right? Like everyone is so spread out. People outsource things. especially when it comes to like help and care. And we don't live right next to our parents or our best friends, or like I say all the time to Britt, I'm like, I wish we lived closer so we could hang out all the time. Um, but it really does make a difference because
Mhm.
to your point, there's so many people who have never seen birth, who have never seen anybody breastfeed, who've only heard traumatic birth stories. They haven't heard the positive birth stories. They haven't heard the positive things about breastfeeding. And I think that really matters because in my personal journey, at least, I only saw one person, one woman in my family who breastfed her kids.
Mm,
So I'm
yeah.
the second one. And I just think that, I mean, I don't know all the reasons why people didn't, but I've learned so much. And it's my cousin. She's like my best friend. And I remember when I was younger, wondering why she was doing the things that she was doing because it wasn't modeled for her, but
Mhm.
she just did it. And I ended up doing the same thing. And now we're both homeschooling moms. And so it's really, I'm so thankful for her. And she doesn't live close, but like if she did live close, she would 1,000% be here when my son was
Yeah.
born. And I
Oh,
got to be there when her son was born. And so it's just like we really do need this sense of community. We need it to be able to have people in our lives who we can talk to about these things and they'll share positive parts of it. And
mhm.
before Britt and I started recording, we wanted to make sure that everyone knows like we're not demeaning the hard parts. We're not demeaning the traumatic births or pregnancies or anything like that. We just want to be more encouraging because there is so much. I don't even know. I don't want to call it like propaganda against like what
Mhm.
birth and pregnancy and birth and motherhood can be.
Call it what
Um,
it is.
yeah, but I just think that it's just portrayed so like it's so hard and it's so painful and there's so many things that come up and it has to be medicalized and all these things and it's just like it, people are not seeing what birth can actually be and
Well, and we've
that's
lost our discernment, I think
yeah
is what's happened because how can you discern? So, for example, like if somebody is sharing with me a really traumatic birth story, like I could share with you my first birth, very traumatic. And you could hear that and just think, wow, birth is really scary and hard and humiliating and violating. But if you don't have discernment, if you don't already know how birth works in the industrialized medical system, if you don't have a knowledge and a knowing of how that goes as soon as you walk through those doors, then you can't discern what you're hearing in my story. You can't hear my story and go, "Oh, it's because when she went in there, she had pitocin given to her. It's not because when she went in there, she had a terrible support person. When she went
right
in there, like you're never getting the whole story, for one.
right
You're never getting the whole story. And two, if you, like I said, the women that I know that work in the industrialized medical system in L&D departments, they're witnessing it all the time. They don't have knowledge or education or experience in physiological birth.
no
They don't. So they see birth and they are full of fear. I've
yeah
experienced this in there as a patient. I've experienced this in there as a doula. So you walk through those doors and everybody's fearful. They're so afraid because birth is scary in that system.
Mhm.
And so you're not getting all of the pieces when you're hearing a horrific birth story, you know?
No, and I think to your point, it's like I wish that the education that we have gained from working with women as doulas and being mothers ourselves and giving birth, I wish that that was just more of a commonplace conversation
Mhm.
because there were so many things I did not understand and I did not know until I took doula trainings, until I saw birth and the births that I saw, I mean, they were again variations. They were not all the same, obviously. And so then when I went to have my kids, I was just like, no, I know what I want. Unless there is something that's like absolutely medically wrong with me that's like like life threatening, like I want nothing to do with anything in that traditional protocol and system that they have set up.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that there also, this just came to my mind. But can we just talk about like how much pressure people put on due dates? Because that helps nobody. It helps absolutely no one. Um,
It's the silliest thing. It's so silly.
well, that's the thing though, is that I think that's part of it, right? Is that everything's been put into a box of, hey, you're pregnant for this long. You need to do these things while you're pregnant. You need to do these things while you're in labor. Your baby's, this is the due date for your baby, and you should make sure that like everyone knows your due date, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it is so, so rare for a baby to be born on their due date. And the science behind that makes absolutely no sense.
It's hogwash. Mhm.
It's a bunch of crap. Um, but
Which
I
is
think,
why I totally chose with Dot was to have a completely wild pregnancy
yeah,
because I've walked through the doors of that system too many times. And my experience during my pregnancy with going in for checkups, every time I go in, you're going in for like, I'm gonna get peace of mind today. I'm gonna get reassurance today. But instead, every time I left with, well, this looks really suspicious. Not really sure about this. We're gonna have to run this test and this test. Oh, I'm not really sure about what I'm seeing here. And so
yeah,
you leave and you're like, full of fear. And
right,
so I wasn't getting what I was hoping to gain by walking through those doors throughout the entire pregnancy. There's nothing helpful for me to walk through those doors during my pregnancy.
yeah,
Not a single test, not a single scan, all harmful. And in my personal opinion, I feel like I'm right. It's all harmful.
yeah,
Um, and so yeah, I think that if you quiet all the voices and if you're not going in there in the first place, but if you can go in there, if you still think you can participate in that system and then also coach yourself to be full of like peace and your own reassurance and have this knowing that everything is okay. Sure. But I think that for me, it's impossible.
yeah.
And so
Well,
choosing a wild pregnancy gave me, I was like, I'm just going to pray about this. Everything feels super great. I feel super healthy. This is normal. This is normal. This variation of normal. Right. So, yeah.
but that's like what you were saying before, though. Just people not having that intuition, that discernment,
Hmm.
that trust in their own
Absolutely.
bodies, and like the ability to really listen to their body if they feel like something's wrong.
Yeah.
Um, it applies across the board throughout pregnancy, throughout labor and birth, and it's just like I just want people to feel more confident in their ability to grow their babies and be able to birth their babies and just have physiological birth be more normalized instead of
Hmm.
just, this is actually another part of the conversation I didn't think about until now, but there's an obsession in our society with comfort and things being comfortable all the
Hmm.
time, comfortable and easy, right?
Hmm.
And if I've learned anything in the last 10 years, it's that some of the most uncomfortable, hardest things are have been the best parts of my life, truly.
Absolutely. That is the truth. That is
Yeah.
the truth.
And it's not, that's the thing though, is that people believe like everything's supposed to be easy. It's always supposed to be comfortable. And that, no, like it's just not. That's not life. And
Well,
when it
and
comes,
look at all these people, these young kids getting their dopamine hits from video games and pornography and junk food and going off track again. Obviously, I keep doing that, but like
no,
if
that's
you're
not,
yeah, if you're a young kid and you just had all this stuff in your hand all the time and you're just easy, instant dopamine, dopamine, and you never actually get your buns off the couch and go
mhm,
out and do the hard thing to get the real reward, the
right,
big reward, the real
right.
dopamine hit that you had to work really hard for.
Yeah.
You're not living.
I really do think what you just said though, like that getting that reward from working so hard, I think that's why when you have a true physiological birth, you literally are like on a high from being like,
It's such
wow,
a high. There's
I
nothing
worked.
nothing
No,
compares to the high.
no. You're
No.
like, wow, I worked so hard. My baby worked so hard. My baby's here now. And you're like, this is the best thing. And I just feel like
That
it's,
reminds me of Edie when she was little. She came off the Tower of Terror at
yeah,
Disneyland,
yeah,
and she was like so hyped. And I think of her a lot when I do hard things because I mean that was a hard thing for her. She was really little, and she
that's
comes off.
so
I
cute though.
feel like I could do anything. She was
Oh,
like so amped, and so I hear her when you were just saying that. I'm like I totally pictured my little Edie being like super
that's
amped.
so
You know? Yeah, that's the
no,
good
but it
stuff in
is.
life.
No, but that's what I'm saying though. Like it's so cool to see kids learning how to do things.
Hmm.
And I mean, and that's where it starts though, right? Is that we have to show our kids that we can be uncomfortable, we can do hard things because that's how they learn to do it. But our society in the last, what, 15, 20 years has just been like, what's the most quickest instant gratification? What's going to give me that dopamine hit? Like, think about how fast paced everything is.
Hmm.
And I'm like, you're missing the whole point. And it's something that I've struggled with too. It's just like when, before I was married to my husband, and it was just my daughter and I'd be like, okay, how can I get everything done so fast? Because I was the only one doing it. And we talked about
Mhm.
this, but
Yeah.
it applies with birth, right? People are like, okay, well, I'm only going to be pregnant for this many weeks because this is what they told me this is how long they told me I was going to be pregnant until. And then if I go past that, then they induce me to make this all happen faster because I'm just done being pregnant, you know?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's just like, I remember talking to you, even I think in the early fall, about my daughter came earlier than I thought she was going to when I was pregnant
Mhm.
with her. And then so I was like, well, maybe this baby will. But I didn't want to set that expectation for myself because every birth and labor and pregnancy is different. And
Mhm.
I'm so glad that I didn't because he came later than I thought he was going to. But
Yeah.
I was not like hyper focusing on like, he's going to come this date. He needs to come here. And if he's not here, then we got to speed it up, you know? And it's
Yeah.
just,
And as women, I think we do that anyways. I think we do. I've seen so almost every woman actually I can think of that I've supported like create expectations around her pregnancy, create expectations around her birth.
mhm,
And then obviously we never meet those expectations.
no.
And so it's super frustrating, but that's just what we do to ourselves.
Mhm.
Imagine this is what women are doing. They're going into see this, they're outsourcing their authority to an expert
Right,
of their body
right,
to
right.
say, tell me what is within normal and tell me what I can expect. Right. Because we don't want surprises. We don't want a mystery, which is actually like part of the beauty. Like I've experienced the mystery and the not knowing. And um I would never do it any other way again.
Yeah,
Like that is part of the beauty of it. We're not
but that
supposed to be taking a surveillance camera and checking and looking inside of our stomach. Is everything okay now? Is everything okay now? Tell me everything's okay now. And it's
yeah.
like, what are you going to do if it's not? Like, what is the point of that? Also, yeah, don't even get me started on ultrasounds. I'm going to
Well, so
go off
that's what
track
I was
again.
gonna say though, because I remember with my daughter during my pregnancy, they were like, "Oh, do you want to do this extensive testing and all of this stuff?" And I was just like, "What's the accuracy of that?" And they basically said, "Oh, well, there's a bunch of potential false flags that could happen, false positives that could happen." And I said, "Okay, so you test mothers for that for during their pregnancy, and it might not even be accurate. You have false positives all the time. And then you think that it's not going to worry that mother the entire time she's pregnant. And then she's stressed out the entire time she's pregnant. And then in reality, her baby comes and her baby's completely fine.
Mhm.
Like that impacts a woman's pregnancy. That impacts not just the woman, but the father of the child too is going to
Yeah.
be so
Well, and
worried.
the baby, because here's the thing is if we're going back to like G&M understanding, right? Dr. Hamer's research, like everything that we are experiencing in our body, like think about I know a lot of people that are listening probably don't have G&M knowledge, but like if you
Yeah,
are experiencing anything on this emotional psychological level, guess what? Your baby is also experiencing that.
that's what I'm saying.
And so,
I
like,
agree
the
with
shock
all.
that happens, like, you're doing more harm. You're doing harm. You're not even considering doing good. You're doing harm to your baby when you are having these negative thoughts and these fears and these worries creep in.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing though, is because we've talked so much about how important your mindset is.
Mhm.
And that applies across the board, your whole life, not just when you're pregnant and
Right.
when you're giving birth or when you're a mother. It's so important to really be like, okay, what is going on? Like, what's the reality of the situation? What's going to cause me to feel this way? What's going to cause me to feel that way? Do I want to put myself into this box? Do I want to give myself this label and then base my whole life off of that? And there are people who look for that because like you said before, we were talking about comfort, like not having a label is the unknown and that scares
Mhm.
people and that's
Mhm.
uncomfortable for people. But at the same time, it's like why would you want to try and confine yourself and put yourself into one box and then be labeled and treated, especially when it comes to like standard medical protocol, labeled and treated as a one size fits all. Like that literally is that it does not work. And when it comes to birth, I feel like people just go along with the standard protocol if they don't know better. If they are
Mhm.
not actually given all of the information, like what all of their options are. If they've never seen breastfeeding, if they've never seen someone physiological birth, there's so many pieces. And I want it to be normalized for, like you said, to have a wild pregnancy and be able to feel comfortable in that and know that your body is capable and you are capable.
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean like Britt and I are not sitting here saying like we don't have fears ever come up for us. That's not what we're saying. But the reality is that every time you're like, oh, I don't really know. I really need to get this done because I need somebody else to tell me that I'm okay. Um, that's not that's outsourcing. Like I
Mhm.
feel like there's such a detachment from being in tune to your body and doing hard things and realizing the importance of doing those things.
Yeah.
Um,
What did they
for
say? Comfort is a slow and painful death.
literally, literally though, but
Yeah,
that's
because 'cause you're
it's
actually not living. You're not living if you're
it's
not
pushed
doing
so
anything.
hard though. It's pushed
Mhm.
so hard on so many people in our society. You have this ache or this pain, here's this drug. You have this ache or this pain, here's this. And it's
Yeah,
like, no,
not listen
how
to your body, and what does that mean for you? What does that mean to you? You know?
why is that happening? Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I mean, again, complete segue, but I remember a couple years ago, I did a road trip with my daughter and I can't even tell you, probably like 25 to 30 billboards, um, just talking about the best cancer hospitals, like like
Mhm.
my whole ride there in multiple states. And I was like, why does nobody think, okay, why is this showing up? How is this showing up? Is my body trying to heal itself? Like it's just there's no conversation about that.
0 conversation about it.
Zero. And
0
I know that has
conversation.
nothing to do with pregnancy and birth, but like it just comes back to being in tune with your body and paying attention to what you're consuming and why things are showing up.
Yeah, I just made a post yesterday sharing about how I had a sore throat. I feel like this message just needs to get out. Like I had a sore throat, it was a really sore throat. And like old me would have been like, I still have to do my day. What can I take to soothe this, make me more comfortable? This is super annoying. And I probably caught something, caught something from someone.
Yeah.
Um, and having the perspective, that's like you're being a victim, you're falling victim to something outside of your control. Oh, poor me. This happened to me, poor me. Instead of like now, the last handful of years, my family and I are like, okay, I have a sore throat. And it's like, all right, well, what are you withholding? What are you not sharing? Where are you not showing up in integrity and being honest and saying the things? And
Mhm.
so I was like, cool, I have a sore throat today.
Let me
Honestly,
receive
like
that.
I'm like, cool. I'm like, oh, what does this mean? I actually feel like kind of excited and there's a lot of curiosity around it. And I'm like, what relationship do I have right now where I'm not showing up in integrity and saying the things? And I was like, oh, something came to mind. And then I was like, oh, and then I start journaling and I'm like, how do people live life without like having a symptom come up and then immediately go, oh, what is this showing me about myself? Like,
Mhm.
we need to be in a constant space of like learning more about ourselves and how we show up in our relationships. And things come up during pregnancy, no doubt. They come up in pregnancy through the whole time, right? And
Yeah.
it's really interesting that a lot of the symptoms that come up at the beginning of the pregnancy in that first trimester have to do with shifts in identity. And I'm like, how do you have these? I have had these, like, I have had these symptoms in pregnancy over 20 years ago and been like, this is so annoying, and been told like, this is just part of pregnancy. Go ahead and just take this and that will
Mhm.
help you get through this part of the pregnancy. And now I look at it and I'm like, oh, you have these symptoms and it's like you are going through a shift in identity. And I think there's in knowing what the symptoms are showing me, there's knowledge in that, and there's also like a power in that, like I'm not victim to this,
Mhm.
and this is all happening for me, you know.
Well, that's the thing. So many people were like, "Of course, this is happening to me. Of course, this always happens to me." And that's like it's not helpful. It's not going to do anything to help you having
Mm-mm.
that mindset. But I also think, to your point, that no, so many people for so long. And I'm not saying everybody, because there's definitely people who think like you and I are like, "Okay, this is happening. Why is this happening?"
Mhm.
But it's like if you think about, especially here in the US, it's like, okay, if you have eczema, here's a medicine. If you have this, here's a medicine. And it's all
Mhm.
over TV. Like that, if you're sitting and you're watching that and kids are consuming it, they're like, oh yeah, so I need to take this in order to be fine, instead of actually being like, okay, wait, why is this showing up in the first place? And actually, I mean, this applies to women's health too. Like I remember, I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast. Did we talk about like being on birth control? I think we might have briefly.
Probably that's a topic I like to
Yeah.
talk about, so
But yeah, but I think back to when I was a teenager and I was having really painful periods. Like it was never a conversation about, okay, why is this happening? It was like, okay, let's
Mhm.
just be on birth control.
Yeah, it fixes everything.
Yeah. So then I literally did not actually know what having a period was genuinely like until after having my daughter, which is
Wow.
insane. Like, I obviously had a couple when I was younger, but then it was like, let's just immediately put you on this. And so it was like, why was there no conversation about, okay, why is this happening in your body? Like, what is
Mhm.
going on? What can you do to change it? And that's just like what our society is. It's just, it's so quick to be like, okay, this is happening. Here's a band aid. This is happening. Numb it out. This is happening. Let's just do something to get rid of that feeling, instead of sitting with it and exploring it and figuring out why, figuring out what you can actually do to change that. Um, but I think that also plays into why people just, they fall prey to being diagnosed with something and they're like, nope,
Mhm.
it can never change. There's nothing I can do about it. And so then I'm going to make my whole life and my whole personality about it.
Goodness
Um,
sake.
and you see that online though, right? Like
Mhm.
there's women who are diagnosed with one thing and that's literally all their content.
Yes.
Like the whole thing. There's no other pieces of it. I'm like, you are a whole person. You are a whole person outside of whatever they told you. And like that part deserves to be celebrated, and not, you shouldn't, like, I wish that they would not just view themselves as a diagnosis or a label that somebody gave them. Um, because I've seen it so many times, even within my own family. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be that way. It really, really doesn't.
It doesn't serve you.
No. I mean, what is that doing? Because not only are you telling yourself that and just saying there's nothing you can do about it, but then you're like telling all these other people who've also been given that same thing that
It's
they're
spell
worthy.
casting. It's spell casting 100%. That's how I
Yeah.
view it. Mhm.
But that's how I feel when it comes to this conversation of pregnancy and birth. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
like, I think it's obviously okay to share your own story. And if your story is going to help somebody in some way, that's great. But like labeling it and being like, there's nothing you can do about it, you just got to live with it and then just complain about it all the time, that's not helpful to you or anybody else.
Mm-mm.
So I distinctly remember when I was pregnant, I loved being pregnant. I mean, even this time around, I loved being pregnant. And there
Mhm.
were hard parts of it, sure, but I wasn't gonna wake up every day and be like, ugh, this is the worst thing ever. There's no
It's a
point to that.
choice.
It's a choice.
Yeah.
And it's ugh, I remember like I felt weird sharing with people that I loved my pregnancy. And I felt weird sharing even this birth. Like it's still new for me to be like, no, like I gave birth to him and it was hard and I loved it and I would do it again.
Mhm.
And some people are like, what are you talking about? That makes me so uncomfortable that you did that in the way that you did it and you loved it.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? Because
Oh, yeah.
there's so much like, no, it was horrible for me. And I'm not saying people shouldn't talk about if their birth was hard for them. I think
Mhm.
it's really important for people to talk about things, but I also think
Yeah.
that like we do need to have the conversations about the positive birth experiences as
Mhm.
well.
Well, and the way I look at it is, of course, there's so many negative birth experiences because there's over 99% of women are birthing in the hospital, and which is wild to me because I'm
What's the
just not.
percentage?
It's like 99%. It's only like 1% of women are birthing at home.
Is it really? I didn't
Yeah,
realize.
and 75% of women are getting epidurals. So they'll still call it like a natural birth because they had a vaginal birth, which is actually rare because like 40% are having C-sections, right? So,
Yeah. I
yeah.
didn't realize it was that high.
Yeah. So if 40% are having C-sections and over 75% of women are having epidurals, like think about like how do positive birth stories come out of that?
No,
That's what.
no,
And I'm just saying that
definitely.
even from my own personal experience, but I have also witnessed women giving birth within the hospital system. And then I witnessed like beautiful, peaceful, physiological births at home. And
Yeah.
like if you had the opportunity to hold a young woman's hand and like follow me, we're gonna go, we're gonna go witness this birth, and now we're gonna go witness this birth. And this is also why I'm so passionate about pregnancy and birth education, is because I get to do that with these young couples and show them like this is how you have a really lovely birth and you enjoy your pregnancy and you enjoy your birth. um and the reality of what happens. And it's not I don't want it to sound like I think that people that work within the industrial medical system are bad people, because I don't.
No.
I actually love a lot of the people that work there, and they're actually like lovely humans with good hearts. They're just uneducated
Right.
in physiological birth. And so,
Yeah.
um, what I'm trying to say is that the experience that you're going to have with people that fear birth, who you have in that room matters. That matters so much. If you have people in that room with you that have never seen a physiological birth, and it's really rare that you're going to meet an OB or a labor and delivery nurse that has experienced a physiological birth. It freaks them the heck out.
It does.
It
It
does.
makes me
And so if
so.
you're walking in there to have a baby and you're like, I just want to have this beautiful, peaceful birth, and you have these expectations, you're going to be met with chaos. It's chaos
Mhm.
because there's so much fear in the room. From the people that you have been seeking as the experts throughout your pregnancy. Actually, they're probably going to be perfect strangers to you on that day of delivery, but
Yeah. I mean, I remember, so with my daughter, I had her in a birth center within a hospital. So basically in a hospital. And
mhm.
they were so thrown off by the fact that like I didn't want any of the medical interventions. I had a different
They're so
midwife.
surprised.
Literally, it's like
Yeah.
you're like a unicorn. And even leading up to having this baby, we didn't tell anybody, like, because I have such a medicalized family that I just didn't want to hear it. Like I
Mhm.
was not I was not
Guys.
interested in arguing. Um, and even it is funny too though, because I think home birth can be so so cool for husbands, and it's like it opens new conversations for them as well, which I think is
Mhm.
so important. And I think for kids too, like having children see what birth looks like, that helps them not be afraid of birth, right?
Yeah, they should be
And
witnessing physiological birth.
yeah,
Mhm.
so like my daughter got to see him be born, and it was the
I just
coolest
love that
thing.
so much.
And like she got to cut his umbilical cord, so she saw like literally the whole process of it. And
Mhm.
I have a friend who she has 4 kids. She's having her fifth, and she was talking about how after having her fourth at home, her husband was just like talking to all of the people he worked with, all the guys he worked with. He's like, "You should have a home birth. Don't tell your wife she has to go to the hospital." All these things. And my husband does the same thing. He's like, "I'm trying to get all my friends to have home births too."
Yeah,
And I was like,
it does happen.
it's cool. It really is because it changes for them too. Like
Mhm. Yeah, we
obviously,
don't think about how our husbands are also going through a transition. Like, yes, we're transitioning, but it's like he's transitioning. Our whole family is transitioning, because of this birth experience.
hmm
And here's the thing is, this is another thing I'm really passionate about is educating the men in this space. But if they're going into a space where they just stand against the wall and everything is happening around them and to their wife,
hmm
like their instincts are, I'm the protector, this is, and they're put in a space where they're kind of like, okay, I'm just going to be quiet and stand in the corner and put my hands in my pockets and, you know, and
like get
then
out of my
if it's,
way.
yeah, but if you're just free birthing at home with your husband, like he's there to help, like comfort you and just be with you.
My
And
husband literally did not leave my side the whole time
right.
I was in labor.
And how that's like what their instincts are. That's what they feel innately like they're supposed to be doing in that space, and they get the space to do it. They don't have that room with the bright lights and the chaos and the fear where they're just like, oh my gosh, is everything going wrong? Like
The
they just
fear
get
of
to be in this peaceful environment
yeah.
where they have a
But also
role.
you can literally feel that though. Like you can
Oh,
feel other people's fear in the birth space a
you're,
thousand percent.
you're right.
And
Even if
so
they said nothing, you
even
can
if they
feel.
said nothing,
Yeah.
like you were saying, like a whole team of people who like may have literally never seen physiological birth or it makes them so uncomfortable. Like being in that space, the mother feels that, the father feels that. And so it's like if we could just all have more open conversations and like actually allow it to birth to unfold in the way that it does. Like I even think about it all the time, just how detached our society is when it comes to birth and then like mothering, right? Like
Mhm.
taking care of newborns afterwards. Like
Well,
it's
because there's
so
an arc. So if you have your intuition shut down throughout the entire pregnancy,
yes.
and then you have your intuition shut down through the entire labor and birth process,
Mhm.
guess what? Nursing's gonna be really hard. Guess what? Mothering is gonna feel really hard. You're gonna be constantly questioning and wondering, who can I take this to? What expert can I go to for this? Like your
Right.
body doesn't know that it hasn't built that trust up.
But it's and that's the thing though is like I this is why like these conversations are so important. Like they're so important for young women to hear and
Mhm.
girls to witness in their own families because they're growing up and like that's what they're seeing and that's going to be what they choose to do or they don't choose to do and it's like you have to be in tune with your body and do what you genuinely feel that like how God wired you.
Mhm.
Like I've seen I remember it was actually really challenging me for me during my postpartum and even before I had my daughter but just this narrative that like babies are supposed to be independent. And it's I've co-slept with both of my babies and I will continue doing that and I see nothing wrong with it. And it's just like I think about, right, if we're looking at animals in the wild and like they have physiological birth all the time. Nobody touches them, you know? And then they're like, "Oh, well, sleeping with your baby is the wrong thing to do and you're just creating a bad habit and nursing them to sleep is a bad habit." And I'm like, if I was a wild animal, I know this is probably going to sound so crazy to people, but like if I was a wild animal and I left my baby in another room to cry when they were teeny tiny and they needed me, they would get eaten. Like, I
Yeah.
know that sounds so dramatic to people, but I'm like, no,
No.
my, I just birthed my baby. I'm not going to put them in another space for me. If they need me, I want to respond to them. I'm not going to,
Right, and so many things were broken up to that
yeah,
point to make you feel that disconnect, right? There was too
yeah,
many things that were broken during the pregnancy, labor, birth process and postpartum that makes that instinct disappear, which is so sad, and it happens all the time,
yeah. But it's like people literally made me feel like I was a crazy person for like
right?
doing what I felt was the right thing to do. And I
Mhm.
remember being like, am I nuts? And then I was like reaching out to all of my friends, and some of them hadn't had kids yet. So obviously they didn't know what I was talking about. But, and then a couple of people, they were like, no, like that's actually how you were designed. Like that's your
Mhm.
baby. You
Mhm.
grew your baby, you carried them, you gave birth to them, and now you're going to nurture them. That's
Yeah.
actually completely normal. But everybody else was like, you're not you're not giving her a bottle, blah blah blah, you're not just going to bring her to daycare. And I was like, that is literally the last thing that I want to do. I was like, that would go against every ounce of my being to do
Mhm.
something like that. And I know everyone, like people feel differently, but I was just like, I cannot understand that because I was in tune with my body and I was in tune with my pregnancy. And so it was just fascinating to me how many people were so quick to be like, nope, this is what society does, so you're supposed to do that.
Yeah. Well, and it's not only something that we're witnessing, it's like also something that's being told to us from these experts. I don't know if that's still happening.
100%. No,
But when
it
you're talking about wild animals, this made me, I was like, you know, what's funny is like thinking about how we were talking at the very beginning about um, as young women having this desire to become mothers
mhm.
and how we want to encourage and inspire these young women to want to become mothers, like that it's such a beautiful thing. And I was thinking about wild animals and how, like, what would have to happen to a mammal in the wild for them to decide they don't want to become mothers,
Mhm.
right? Like, that's how instinctive it is for us. We are mammals, right? So like that's instinctive to us to want to become mothers and to just become mothers.
Mhm.
And so I'm just thinking like what would happen? What would have to happen in the wild for a female to like no longer have a desire? It's like a biological happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but that's the thing, like what we were talking about earlier, there's just so much, I'm gonna call it propaganda because that's what it is.
Hmm.
There's so much propaganda to push young couples away from having children. There's
Mhm.
so much. And to be completely honest, a lot of it has to do with like just being selfish, which
Yeah.
I don't really understand personally. But I remember seeing, what do they call it? Um, they call them like dinks. So it's like dual income, no kids.
Oh. Yes, I have heard this phrase.
I
Yeah.
remember seeing this whole account and it was like, well, I don't have to wake up early and I don't have to prepare lunch and I don't have to do this and I don't have to do that and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, so you just make a bunch of money and stay super comfortable your whole life.
And have no purpose and no legacy, and that just sounds like a really depressing, sad life. And, like, honestly, I'm gonna just say, selfishly, I feel like
Mhm.
I would have never stopped having kids
I know.
because I'm like, I get to build my own little, like, community of people that I actually like. I'm kidding.
No,
Like,
for real.
I love my little humans that I've made, and they've turned into like really amazing adults, and they're the most fun. And I kind of look back and I'm like, why didn't I have a dozen of them?
I know.
I wish I had.
Well, I've jokingly said to my husband, like, what were we talking about? We were just talking about something and then like ganging up on him in a funny way, nothing like serious. And I was like, that's why we're gonna have so many kids. We're gonna have a tribe. Like they're my tribe. Because I feel like that and I genuinely, I'm like, I don't know how many kids I'm gonna have, but I know that I would love to continue having more kids, God willing. Um, and so it's just like I can't imagine. And like even after having him, I'm just like literally it was like a day or two later, I was like, I could do that again.
Oh, I love that.
I'm ready. I'm ready to do it again.
I
Um,
love it.
because it is really, and when you just, I don't. I don't know if people really view it from like a legacy standpoint as much anymore. And I
Mm-mm.
think that that's kind of lost on our society, like where you come from and
Yeah.
honoring where you come from.
I
And
think
then,
that that comes down to a lot of people not knowing where they come from.
yeah,
There's a lot of absent fathers. So
yeah.
I think the father's role is really to establish like leadership and also a pride in like this is who we are, this is what we do, this is where we're going, this is where we've been, you know.
Mm.
And when there's absent fathers, that goes back to this identity crisis, this identity conflict that a lot of people are walking through life
Well,
with.
so much, again, it's so much detachment, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so, I mean, we could apply so many things we just talked about that. Like, if that father was present for the pregnancy and the birth of his child,
Mhm.
how would that have changed him? Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean? But then it's also like, okay, well, where did you come from? What did you see when you were growing up? What was the example that was shown to you?
Mhm.
And I think it bothers me so much that there's just like a lack of understanding for the importance of fathers and mothers and families and children. There's just like,
Well,
I don't,
we can go back. I think we've done this before, but we can blame feminism for a lot of that.
oh yeah, oh
So,
yeah. But even now, it's just like the world that we live in. It's just it's challenging to see women who have. I mean, and I can speak to this personally because I am divorced and now remarried. But there was never a part of me that when I got divorced that I was like, screw men. I don't need men. I don't need a man. My daughter doesn't need a father. There was no part of me that was ever like that.
mhm.
But that that whole thing we were talking about with social media and like people making that their personality, that is so common on social media.
That's a strong personality on social media.
For it's very strong from what I see, but it's for both sides. But I've seen it far more for women than men.
Oh, yeah.
But there's also, I mean, there's so many ways we could go with these conversations. That's why it's just so hard to like stick to one thing. Because I was
Yeah.
just
Do you
thinking
have
about,
4 hours?
do you guys have 4 hours to listen to this? Our podcasts are super long. We could do that.
We could, yeah.
Um, but there's just your legacy does matter, and like your
Yeah.
family does matter. The father matters, the mother matters, the children matter. And I just think that sharing about pregnancy and birth and how that can change everybody for the better, I think that's pretty important.
Mhm. It is.
Yeah. I'm just sitting here and I'm like, I feel like we've gone off topic, but also there's so many things that we can keep talking about.
Oh
I
my
have to
goodness.
write some of them down so I don't forget.
I know.
Um, so do you feel like we've kind of shared a bit enough about like each pregnancy and birth? Are there more things that you feel like we should share about?
You know, honestly, Liv, I feel like we could do another podcast on this.
I know, I do
I feel
too.
like we could talk more, like, share more about our personal if, you know, people are interested in hearing more about our personal experiences in pregnancy and our personal experiences with our births. And,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think
Yeah.
that could be a whole nother conversation even.
So maybe we should do that next week. Segue into the next episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, I feel like we talked about a lot of things. So I hope everybody enjoyed our rantings and ravings.
I know, I feel like I got a little passionate here and there throughout this call. That
We
happens.
both did. We
I get a
both
little
did,
intense sometimes, yeah.
admittedly. We just have very strong feelings about things. And we just,
Mhm.
I think it's just like because I so much so don't want women and babies to be robbed of this experience, you
Yes.
know? And I
Mhm.
really want um, children whose mothers go through this. Like if there's older children, I want them to be able to see and witness their mother and
Mhm.
their siblings and how important that is. So I think that's it's not like we just feel strongly about it for no reason. It's
No,
really
there's so many reasons. It establishes, like, a really good secure attachment, and secure attachment is what we all need to get through life and have really healthy relationships. So,
yeah.
if we aren't doing pregnancy and birth and postpartum and we're not developing all of these attachments like we could be as mothers, then, that's our future, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, it's so important.
Yeah. So basically, we all need everybody to be attached to each other again at the end of the day and foster that attachment with one another.
Yes, everybody go out and start your own women's circle now.
Seriously, though,
Seriously, yeah.
we need that in-person community.
Yeah, we do.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening and joining us this week. And we're excited to keep talking about it next week. All right. We'll talk to you then, guys.
Bye.